Pour yourself a cold one and listen to the best college football picks podcast going, The College Draft. Yeah, it's Daddy Soda time here on the College Draft Podcast, presented, of course, by DraftKings. The crown is yours. What do we got for you? We'll go over Emory's 10 bets from week 1 in college football, what he got right, what he got wrong, and then there are a bunch of bets to get to here and big games, week 2 college football, Iowa State, Iowa, always love that matchup. Michigan, Oklahoma, and Emory has a very interesting bet on that one. The Oregon-Oklahoma State spread is wild. A lot to get to a little bit later on in the show. First, though, we got to review how we did the week before, see what lessons we learned, not just from a betting perspective, but from a prospect perspective here on the College Draft Podcast. He's the star of the show. You can't turn on any type of CBS product, CBS Sports Network, CBS Sports HQ, even on social media, CBS College Football, without seeing this guy looking nice in his apricot-colored suit. I don't know if it's apricot, whatever. He looked amazing in it. It popped off social media. I was like, whoa, who's that guy? Oh, that's Emory. It was amazing. Check him out on social media, at FBall Game Plan on Twitter, Football Game Plan on YouTube. And then, of course, he's got that awesome draft guide, which we'll start to tell you about the website for the draft guide next week so you can get the 2026 draft guide. Here's what I'll tell you, too. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL on social media. I think most of you know I call games Eagles in the preseason, but now it's Westwood One Radio. I'll be in the booth Thursday night with Kevin Harlan for the Eagles and the Cowboys for Westwood One. That'll be amazing. And then heading down to New Orleans, where Emory grew up, for the Cardinals and the Saints on Sunday. You can check me out at Ross Tucker NFL or all of our shows at Ross Tucker Pod. We're pretty much every platform, right? So whatever you guys are on, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter X, we are there. Certainly YouTube, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Emory, you got off to a very, very fast start last week, especially in the biggest games. Ohio State and Texas, you laid the 1.5 with the Buckeyes. They get the win, low scoring, 14-7. And I guess the big takeaway from that one, Emory, was just Arch Manning. Took him a while to kind of get going in that game.
Felt like they were trying to have Arch Manning play Quinn Ewers' game when they should have let Arch Manning play Arch Manning's game, which is very similar to that of Alex Smith at Utah. Get him in that QB power, get him going off that zone read. They have a healthy stable of backs. Allow him to ease into the game with his athleticism, and then that passing game will start to develop and pop later in the game, sort of like it did against Ohio State.
Ooh, that is interesting. I'll say this too, Emory. I mean, we do this all the time. We take someone who has talent and a very small sample size, and we get all excited about them. And then as the sample size becomes larger, we get to see more things, more flaws, more things, room for improvement, like every player has. And then people start to knock him when it would be a surprise if he didn't have room for improvement.
Right. You got to let guys grow and not be forced to rush everyone into the top 15 in the NFL draft. That's one thing that I have gotten better with over the course of, my time doing all of this, right? Where you're watching a college game, just watch the college game for what it is. And then when it comes time to, evaluate prospects, that's why we always talk about senior prospects and not guys that are not draft eligible or, that we know are not going to come out. Let's just focus on the guys going to come out. Everyone else, let's just watch college football for the college football game itself.
All right, the next game you nailed as well. You had Florida State getting 13.5. Emory, they won outright against Alabama by 2 touchdowns, 31-17. You were buying Castellanos and his bravado, and it came through.
Yeah, listen, when you talk a big game and you get everyone around you to believe, it only takes one dude to believe. And it's lucky for Florida State it was the quarterback, because when you have that level of belief, not only just in yourself, but hey, we're gonna win this game because I'm on the team. That type of stuff permeates throughout the rest of the roster. And they caught we talk about this all the time, Ross. One game season, you have spring, summer to focus on that one opponent. That's a lot of intel. That's a lot of practice. You go into that game feeling super confident, which is why we see a lot of upsets and tight games in week 0 and week 1.
You lost the Syracuse, Tennessee. I liked Syracuse plus 13.5. I was with you on that. They lost by 19, 45-26 to Tennessee. They just couldn't stop them. And the quarterback for Tennessee looked good, Emory.
Yeah, he looked like App State Joey Aguilar, the 2023 version of App State's Joey Aguilar, and that's a great thing for Tennessee moving forward.
Montana State, I was with you on that one. I liked Montana State getting the 30 points against Oregon, but touchdown Tommy's not there anymore, and they were not able to hang. How about your Ragin' Cajuns, though, Emory? One of the biggest disappointments. You laid the 13.5, and they didn't make gumbo. They got beat by Rice, 14-12.
First time Cajuns have ever figured out what not to do with Rice, right? Like they just couldn't do nothing offensively. Drop passes. Credit Rice's defense, and also I was shocked that the Cajuns defense was able to adjust and stop Scott Abel's rushing attack. I interviewed him like 4 years ago when he was at Washington and Lee, and he was telling me about his Lex Vegas offense, and they were leading Division III in rushing, the top 3 in rushing in Division III. Goes to Davidson, gets those guys to the playoffs with that rushing attack, and not surprised he got off to a great start here at Rice.
You laid the 22.5 with A&M. UTSA was able to only lose by 18. They kept it closer. Man, one of the biggest wins, I thought two of the biggest wins the whole weekend, LSU winning at Clemson 17-10. You took Clemson minus the 4. That really surprised me. Clemson is loaded. They have all these first-round picks, supposedly. They're playing at home. That was a bad loss for the Clemson Tigers.
And what I noticed the most from that game is the same thing I noticed from Ohio State. When have we ever seen Ohio State and Clemson not have a guy in the backfield? And Clemson couldn't run the football. That was the difference, because LSU could, just enough to where it kept the defense honest. Clemson had no running game, and LSU just teed off on them.
Virginia Tech, you took the Hokies plus 8. That was looking good for a while, but then South Carolina able to get that late score to win 24-11.
And what was evident in that game was just the level of explosiveness that South Carolina has to the lack of explosiveness from Virginia Tech. They don't have speed on offense, and it showed up in a huge way in that ball game.
And then finally, last night's game, what an awesome game. Looked like Miami's pulling away. Notre Dame, they don't quit. They come all the way back. But then Miami still wins it with the field goal, 27-24. You had Notre Dame laying the 2.5. The Hurricanes get it done. Feels like Miami hasn't won a lot of those big games in recent years. I was kind of with you, taking the Irish and the big game pedigree. Feels like one of the bigger wins for Miami in a while.
Yeah, credit. And here's two things you got to give credit to Miami for. One, playing a disciplined game. Wasn't a lot of Miami penalties, right? Just they played a clean game. And two, credit their defense for stepping up and playing great all throughout the game and closing out the game. And so you kind of think, man, if they had this defense last year, they would have been a postseason team. But at least they got the defense right this year. And if the offense, granted it was raining all throughout the ball game, the offense can continue to get better and more consistent, then, man, they got a good thing cooking down there. But also, why was Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price not toting the rock? That right there was the biggest takeaway for me.
I did not understand that either. Also, why does Jeremiah Love jump every time he gets the ball? What is he doing?
That's like he reminded me so much of that 16 seed in the NCAA tournament that start the game and just start jacking up threes. Like, bro, we a post team. Why you going here firing up threes you hadn't fired up all season? So he got that one jump, and they say that he won't jump over everybody. But I was totally just shocked that two of the best running backs in the country was barely touching the football. It made no sense to me.
All right, let's get to week 2 in college football. We are on the hunt for some winners. So last week, you were 2-7. So you went from 3-2 to 5-9 here on the season. So we got to get back to the plus side of the ledger. We will start with one of my favorite rivalries in college football, Iowa State, Iowa. And Iowa State is laying 2.5 points against the Hawkeyes, Emory.
I'm gonna lay the 2 points with the 2.5 points with Iowa State. When you think about them going to Ireland and having a game against a very solid South Dakota team out the FCS, I was like, this could be a potential letdown spot because of the jet lag, all that good stuff like that. Nope, they won in an emphatic way, and I like just how Rocco Beck is playing. They look consistent from down to down, play to play. They could run the ball. They could beat you with the passing game. I like them here in this spot against Iowa. Back-to-back wins, in my opinion, for the Cyclones over the Hawkeyes.
That would be huge, clearly. And it's wild, by the way. People are just now starting to realize that there's something to Rocco Becht. He's got a little something to him. He seems to me like the type of guy, he's going to find a way to make a way like in the NFL as a backup or something.
Totally agree. And when you like how he plays, I always call these guys like him game manager plus, which means he can kind of do a little bit more than your standard game manager, which means he makes some of those plays in the most crucial parts of a ball game that you need to have. That's why he's such a special quarterback.
Okay, one of the biggest games in week 2, it's where College Game Day will be. It's Michigan, it's Oklahoma. What's your bet on this one, Emory?
I like the under on the total. I think the total, when you look at this game, we're looking
46 and a half.
46 and a half. I think we'll see a tightly contested defensive battle. You have a true freshman quarterback who played outstanding last week in Bryce Underwood, and you have John Mateer, who looks like another version of Johnny Manziel. He's out there making plays. But I think in this ball game, between these two programs and these two coaches, defense, run game, possession ball, I think we see this total go under.
Don't go anywhere. Got to pay some bills real quick. Man, it was so awesome watching college football over the weekend, Emory. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I'm just so glad there were so many good week 1 games. And I'm so glad that most college football fans looked like they were drinking Twisted Tea, right? Here's the deal about Twisted Tea. It's hard iced tea made with real brewed tea, which means it actually tastes like tea. Refreshing, smooth, none of that carbonation slowing you down. And it's 5% alcohol. So it's got just the right kick to keep your tailgate rolling all day long. So when you're packing that cooler, stock up on Twisted Tea and keep those game day vibes going strong. That is Twisted Tea. Listen, we got some big time games this week as well. Keep it twisted. What did you tell me your first impressions of Underwood?
Arm strength was crazy. Like it was like, wow, that's a hell of a throw. And some of the anticipatory throws he made was impressive too, because you just assume he's going to just power everything in there. But he showed he could throw with some touch, kind of feather the pass in down the sideline. I was like, okay, the moment is not too big for him. I thought he played above the X's and O's in certain parts. So very impressed with the young freshman. Excited to see what he can build on that in this high leverage game already in week 2.
It is interesting because you have a defensive-minded head coach in Venables, and you have a head coach in Sharon Moore with an offensive line background. You like, I think Under's a smart play here because the O-line coach wants to lean on, his O-line and running the ball and what he knows and the guys he trusts. And Venables wants to lean on what he knows. They don't want the quarterback, whether it's the true freshman or whoever, to turn it over. It's not like that when these are OCs turned head coaches or Sark, although they went 14 to their game was 14-7. So what do I know?
And
All right,
Justice
what
Haynes is
about
a very good running back too for Michigan. Big fan of him. Like I've liked his game since he was in high school, and now he's getting to really be the guy out there at Michigan.
who?
Justice Haynes.
Oh yeah. All right, what about Illinois and Duke? The Fighting Illini with Bielema, they get a lot of guys back this year, and Duke, it's year 2 for Manny Diaz.
And they have Darius Mensah, the quarterback that was at Tulane, is now starting quarterback at Duke. Duke has quietly become a QB factory as of late with all the quarterback success they've had recently. I think because you have two great quarterbacks in this matchup in a unique ball game between the Big Ten and the ACC, this is one of those games you kind of earmark for. This could matter later in terms of playoff positioning or playoff bid or playoff case. So I think we're in store for a high scoring one. So I like the over here between Duke and Illinois.
Okay, the total's 49.5. So Emory's going over 49.5. So far we are laying the 2.5 with Iowa State against Iowa. We're going under the 46.5, Michigan, Oklahoma. Illinois, Duke over 49.5. What about Kennesaw State? They came to play over the weekend. Now they're taking on Indiana, the Hoosiers, with Mendoza, that Cal transfer quarterback.
Shout out to Coach Jerry Mack because he is one of my favorite coaches in the business. He was the head coach for a long time at North Carolina Central. Then he became the OC running backs coach at Tennessee, or he was a running backs coach at Tennessee. Then he was at Rice. He was the OC at Rice for a while, and now he's gotten a head coaching opportunity at Kennesaw State. Totally revamped the program because Kennesaw used to run that triple option, but they gave their opponent all kind of problems last week. Had a chance to win that ball game. They were in that thing tight. So because they look so improved on offense and defense, this 35.5 point total against Indiana, that's a lot of points, especially versus coming against an Indiana team. And I know you can't use this, transitive property, but that was Old Dominion they played. Old Dominion should be solid in the Sun Belt Conference. But man, Kennesaw State looks different. I think Coach Mack will have these guys prepared, so I'm taking them plus all these points.
All right, what about Oregon? We went with Montana State last week because thinking that, they're better than people realize. Oregon looked awfully good, put a big number up on them. Oregon's playing Oklahoma State, Emory. They're laying 28.5 against the Oklahoma State Cowboys. 28.5 against a Big 12 team like that. What do you got?
I'm gonna lay these points, Ross, because I know. And here's the thing I said about Oregon last night on CBS that you got some internet herbs out there that mistook the statement, like, oh, because are you saying they? I said Oregon looked impressive against Montana State, so I'm gonna move them up a little bit over Miami. Well, because Montana State is an elite level FCS school. I know Miami played Montana State, but I know Miami played Notre Dame. But that's a game that kind of you just flip spots with those guys. But Oregon looked so impressive because we didn't know what to expect with Oregon because you breaking in a new quarterback and you lost some key pieces. But man, you talk about the benefit of Dante Moore sitting for a year, learning the system, digesting the system, and stepping into a situation where you have a turnkey offense and he's able to go out there and they dominated a team that's going to dominate at the FCS level the rest of the way. This is impressive. So Oregon looks that like they'll be right there in the end once again, making a deep run in the postseason. So I have no problem with them rolling through Oklahoma State in this ball game.
Laying the 28.5. All right, what about South Florida? They're getting 18.5 against the Florida Gators.
They out Boise State in that ball game, Ross. They were physical at the point of attack. They were out there hitting consistently. And the offense took a while to get going. But, man, once they got going, they were running the ball. Brian was making some great plays on both ends of offense. I was just so impressed with the defensive effort of South Florida. And now they got the confidence of beating the top 25 team. Now they come into Gainesville, take on the Gators. And we know this means what? Bragging rights, recruiting rights. and a chance for South Florida to say, hey, nah, last week wasn't a fluke. So I think this one will be a lot closer than people think. So I'm taking South Florida plus the 18 points, 18 and a half.
I'm with you. I think South Florida, they are going to be very confident going into Gainesville. All right. Army lost to Tarleton State. They probably didn't know what to expect since Tarleton State lost Darius Cooper, who made the Eagles as an undrafted rookie free agent. But Tarleton State surprised them, and they get the win against the Black Knights. Now Army takes on Kansas State. Army's getting 16 and a half points, Emory, against a K-State team that's kind of struggling at the start of the year.
We saw them have to go down to the wire to beat North Dakota last week. I felt like North Dakota's defense could have showed a little bit more fight and aggressiveness in the end. They would have pulled off the upset. And Army, to be honest, Ross, they got out physical by Tarleton State. Like Tarleton State's defense was out there knocking heads around. And so I think the wake-up call for Army, combined with their run game, combined with what they do defensively, 16 and a half points against Kansas State, that's a lot of points. So I'm taking Army to get back on the right track and make this one a little bit competitive once again.
All right, let's talk a little Big 12 against SEC. Arizona State against Mississippi State. By the way, that receiver for Arizona State, what's his name, Jordan Tyson, he looks legit. He's got a second level.
He really does. And this team, I think, is the best team in the Big 12. So this is a huge game. Shout out to Mississippi State because I thought they'd lose last week to Southern Miss. They were a game. They came out with the opening drive with 5 plays, touchdown. They look sharp. They look good. And I think we were in for a very entertaining contest between these two high-octane offenses. So I like the over of 58 and a half here.
I like that too. I think there's a lot of points in that game. You would imagine Arizona State with Levitt and Tyson, they're going to keep putting points up. All right, what about Louisiana Tech? They're getting 37 and a half against LSU. I think I know which way you're going here, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm taking Louisiana Tech plus the points. That was another team that shocked me last weekend. I know it was against Southeastern Louisiana, but I've always said this, Ross. Outside of LSU, the 8 other FBS, FCS Division I teams in Louisiana, the talent is not that much different. So they're a lot equal. I thought Southeastern, with their roster and how they built, they have a pro prospect there as well, they were going to keep that one close against La Tech. La Tech shut them out. So the defense was outstanding. And LSU, while they were dominant on defense, which is going to be the case here against La Tech, the offense, I think La Tech matches up with their receiving core. So I like this battle. I think we'll see La Tech kind of keep this one under the number. If LSU wins 35-0, we still win the bet. So I like La Tech plus 37 and a half.
Plus, everyone's going to be telling LSU how great they are this week. Everybody patting them on the back. I think they come out flat in this game, and I think that Tech gives them a game. All right, let's stay in Louisiana in the sense that UL-Monroe is taking on Alabama, coming off that rough loss to Florida State. Alabama is laying 38 and a half in this one, Emory. What are you doing?
Listen, I took UL-Monroe minus 23 and a half against St. Francis last week, a team that is transitioning from FCS to D3, Ross. And this was a team in St. Francis that beat Kent State last year. So that a lot of those players had left because they announced that they were dropping down to D3. And UL-Monroe struggled to cover. It took them until a late score to get the points needed to cover. So I'm saying all that to say this is the worst time for UL-Monroe to play Bama. Bama just got punched in the mouth last weekend. UL-Monroe still doesn't have the explosiveness element because their star tailback is now starting at Missouri. So Bama gets the right opponent in the right situation to bounce back and show people that, hey, we're not falling off. We're still in the mix of this thing. So I will lay these 38 and a half points with Bama over UL-Monroe.
Time to finish this episode strong right after this. Did you guys get your Labatt for the season? Hopefully you saw my post on Twitter X on Thursday night. I am loaded up with Labatt for the NFL season. And you know what I can do? I can get cool stuff just for drinking Labatt, which I was going to do anyway. It's buy beer, get gear. I just go to the website, snap a photo of my receipt, upload it instantly to rack up points for exclusive merch. Listen, any purchase at any store, bar, stadium, it doesn't matter. Anywhere you're buying Labatt, buy beer, get gear. I love their gear. Go to rewards.labattusa.com to sign up. Man, you like to lay a lot more points than I ever would, but it works sometimes. You know, the problem with that is like I was watching Penn State, Nevada
Yes.
last week, and I want to ask some of these coaches, I mean, off the record, because they would never say it on the record, but I am curious how much they're aware of the betting line and what the spread is, because like they're not playing at the end of the game to win by 42 and a half. They're putting in all these freshmen that they just want to see what those guys can do, give them some snaps. Like I feel like it'd be so much easier to do these bets on the big spreads if you knew that the team was trying to win by that much, but they're not.
Right, like Florida and LIU. Like it was like Florida was like minus 43 and a half, and then the over under was like 53. It was like, okay, I know Florida's going to shut them out, but how big will they shut them out? And so it's always a tough line in those type of situations.
All right, check him out on social media at FBall Game Plan. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL. We are at Ross Tucker Pod, doing big numbers the first 2 weeks on YouTube, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL, which is awesome. Please subscribe and turn notifications on so you get this show and these bets as soon as it drops early on a Monday morning. Other than that, the keg is kicked. We are all tapped out.
Thanks for tuning in to College Draft. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Even Money, and Fantasy Feast, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.